Hi guys, welcome to another episode of The Armourer's Bench. My name's Matt, and today, with the help of a friend of the channel, Richard Fisher, who runs the Vickers Machine Gun Collection and Research Association, we're going to take a look at the disassembly and reassembly process for the iconic Vickers machine gun. Developed from the Maxim, the Vickers entered British service in 1912 and served right through into the 1960s. It's a real pleasure to have Rich's help with this video. There's no one better to show us the ins and outs of the Vickers.
So to disassemble the Vickers, just checking the action through first. I've drawn back the bottom cover and then I'm going to draw it forward again. Take the lock out after opening the top cover, turn it a little bit to the side there so it comes off the connecting rod, and pop that out of the way and down to one side. Then I've got to come up to the muzzle end and I'll undo the pin of the outer casing muzzle attachment again, then turn that slightly to one side. The gland's a bit loose there, it was only hand tight, but I'll take that off. Take off the muzzle cup so that comes off by using the special combination tool there. This is quite a dirty gun as it's just been firing blank. After taking off the muzzle cup, go back down to the breech end and start to disassemble here. So I'm going to take the feed block out, pop that to one side, doesn't need stripping at this point. Drop that front cover back down again and put the catch back in place. Then I'm going to take the fusee spring off of the side. So the fusee cover comes off with just a little slide forward, and you've got to turn the fusee to disengage it from the action and pop that down to one side. Can then open the top cover again, take out the T-fixing pin by unscrewing it, and then the cross piece comes back and the side pieces come out. The whole action then comes back nice and easily, and the barrel and the side plates come out, the T-pins there, the side plates come off the trunnions of the barrel, and there we go, completely disassembled. So the locks to one side, the side plates and the connecting rod, the barrel, the feed block, and the fusee spring in its casing, in its cover. You can just see the fusee linkage there that gives that gun that whole toggle action onto the spring. The spring's really loose on this one because, like I say, it's just been firing blank. So to disassemble the lock, we're going to use the T-fixing pin itself, take out that first pin, the pin there. The action comes apart quite easily now. You can see that I'm managing to do it with one hand. Take off those extractor levers, take the extractor off. There's then the pin that pushes through on the trigger, like that, using the other end of the T-fixing pin this time. That releases the lock spring as well. Lock spring's going to stay in there for the time being, but everything else just gradually comes apart, including the tumbler mechanism, and the firing pin comes out, as does the sear, nice and easily. And at the same time, the lock spring just fell out there. So that's all the parts disassembled. Now you can see the gun in its disassembled state. None of the sort of usual fixtures and fittings. At this point, you'd give it a really good clean down, as well as obviously all those component parts that you've taken out. Here's the top cover. You can see the trigger bar. That doesn't necessarily need taking out unless it's broken. You can oil that up quite nicely with it in situ. And you can see where the fusee cover came from. And once you have disassembled, taken out the side plates, it's quite an easy gun with lots of clean sides to clean down. And you can see right through the water jacket there as well. Obviously the cross piece does come apart further, but this is just normal disassembly that we've covered.
Okay, and now Rich is going to talk us through reassembly of the gun.
Here's the lock, and you can see the different components laid out as per the manual there, just to make it easier to identify which is which. So reassembling the lock almost in reverse order. The sear goes in first, the spring. That's to engage on that front pin there. The firing pin then follows that. You just need to push down the sear so that the firing pin can go forward nice and easily. We'll then put the tumbler back in and put the tumbler pin back in that first. A little bit trickier on this one, just some of these parts haven't been apart before since they were put together in the Second World War. Then trigger fits in, trigger pin goes in nice and easily. And the pin doesn't, and the trigger does. Just needs a little bit more work to get that nice and flush there. Then the extractor can slide back on. We haven't taken the extractor spring apart, the jib spring in this case, but that doesn't matter. The side plates then go on. Keep one finger on the other side while putting that side plate on. Then the side levers come round like that, and you can put the bush axis side levers in. So there's the bush before you put the split pin in. Now holding it in a fired state, so you've got it. Just drop the sear back. Keep the long part of the lock spring goes in first. That will then fits in. Caught a bit of my glove in there. Then you can start to cock it, and when you're firing it, keep your thumb out of the way of that tumbler. To reassemble the gun, the barrel has to go in first. So pick that up, slide that in about half the way, and then we can connect the side plates to those trunnions and get that connecting rod and the crank all in place as well before sliding it all the way home. Following that, we're going to put the little side pieces in, left and right side pieces. Notice how the left hand side one has got the pin for the fusee spring cover to go on. Rear cross piece goes up, and the T-fixing pin goes back in the hole there through the dial sight bracket on this version of the gun. So it's a longer T-pin. Then the fusee spring, the fusee itself needs to be linked in properly. Cover slid over the two pins at the front and that one on that rear side plate, and just slotted into place. Make sure it's nice and firm in place, fixed in properly, because as soon as you cock it, it will fly off otherwise. Then we're going to put the feed block back in, close that down. Then we're going to go back up to the muzzle of the gun. Remembering this was quite loose, that gland was quite loose, so I've just tightened that up slightly while I'm putting the cup of the muzzle attachment back on the barrel. Turned on there. Could tighten that up with the combination tool, but haven't. Outer casing goes on, quarter turn to the right, and put that split pin back in place. Now back down to the rear of the gun, and I'm going to raise the top cover. Once I've raised that top cover, lift up that connecting rod and put that lock in place on there. And that just is sticking a little bit, and you'll see that it's just not wanting to turn round onto those connecting those teeth that connect into the bottom of the connecting rod, which is tricky. But what you can notice is actually in stripping it down, you can just see the gap there between the adjustment nut on the connecting rod, and it's just a little bit too open. So now it will go on nice and easily. There we go, and able to slot into place. I've lifted that extractor up because the bottom cover is closed, but the bottom cover now open, and I can cycle the action to make sure that everything is working properly, and closing that bottom cover back up. And one last look past the gun. On the left hand side this time, you can see the fusee cover in place there, the water jacket cover, the barrel casing cover, and then the muzzle attachment. Right hand side of the gun, cocking handle, feed block, and then the water jacket again.
Thanks again to Rich for his help with this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll have more videos on the Vickers in the future. Please check out the Vickers Machine Gun Collection and Research Association's site to find out more about what they do. They have some wonderful resources, including a comprehensive collection of manuals, not just for the Vickers, but also for the wider British Army over the last 100 years. You can also order copies of the brilliant instructional posters which were featured in the video over on the Association's website. Thanks again for watching. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. If you enjoyed the video, please consider supporting Tab via Patreon. We have some cool perks available, and your support enables us to travel to film cool videos like this one. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.